are safe. We're a city that wants neighborhoods that provide good education for our children. And we are a city that wants neighborhoods that provides jobs that pay a living wage for folks, jobs that allow people to provide for their family. Those are the basic things, and those are the things that we all want. But I have some hard truths to say as well, because I'm running in part because I believe the incumbent isn't doing as good a job as we need, isn't serving ourselves, isn't serving the city as well. We have some serious problems in this city, especially when it comes to ethics. We have some of our highest elected officials who have served us wrong, and it hurts our city overall. Now, I'm not saying that Mr. Orange is one of those people. We have no evidence of that at all. That's not the question. The question, the question, though, is where is not just your vote, but where is your voice when it comes to standing up and calling people out for the wrongdoing? That's something that we have missed. That's something that we missed from Mr. Orange, and we missed it from some other council members as well. It's very important that we speak out as leaders and say when folks are doing wrong and say that there are folks who are not serving us well. Now, there are all sorts of things that I want to see for this city, and the biggest thing that we need for this city is jobs and job creation, and especially in neighborhoods that are being left behind. Areas east of the river, the levels of unemployment east of the river are depression-level numbers when it comes to unemployment. That is not healthy for this city, and we're not going to grow ourselves out of this jobs problem through construction jobs. I support first source hiring for construction jobs. It's a healthy thing, it's what we deserve. But what we really need to do is to grow the sectors of the economy that are going to help grow neighborhoods out of poverty. That's what we need to do. We need to focus on information technology, focus on hospitality and retail. The leadership needs to show their vision for how we grow neighborhoods out of poverty. It's been too long, and we need a break from the past, and I ask for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. We're now going to introduce our panel of folks who will be asking questions here today. We're going to start with Mr. Bruce DuPoit, Channel 8, host of News Talk. Bruce? You just wave your hand and let me, okay? Great. Debbie Simmons of the Washington Times.
Good morning.
And Sam Ford of ABC 7, General Assignment Reporter. So what we're going to do is go down the line and allow each of our panelists to ask a question, and then we're going to give our candidates an opportunity to respond to those questions. We ask that you keep your responses to 2 minutes each. 2 minutes each for responses. We can begin with Mr. Bruce DuPoit.
Thank you, Tracy, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I want to ask a question about family, and I find myself thinking about my own family. It's Saturday morning. When I was growing up, my dad took myself and my brother out for breakfast at a little kitchen, a little lunch counter place in the neighborhood. And that was one of many things that we did with my dad every week, whether it was play ball on the street after work, or when he got home from work, or just every day, all the things that my brother and I were fortunate enough to be able to do with my father. Recently, there was a story in the paper talking about how basically kids are growing up without fathers now because most children are being born to out-of-wedlock parents. So I'm wondering, because I can't imagine having grown up without my dad, I'm wondering what can we do to strengthen families and to make it more likely that children grow up in homes where the parents are present, where they're loving, and where they're teaching the things that so many of us were fortunate enough to be able to learn coming along.
Okay, so one point before answering that question, we need to reduce the time from 2 minutes to 1 minute for responses to these questions from the panelists, and I apologize for that. We can begin with Mr. Biddle.
Thank you. So, Bruce, this is something that I saw throughout my teaching career. for many of my students, I was the only constant male figure in their lives. And if you think about, what it's like to go to school, I mean, even growing up here in the city, I was fortunate to be raised in a stable two-parent home, and I see both my parents here and spent Saturday mornings in the park or at the Y going out and playing with them, and obviously had a lot to do with my own personal development. But oftentimes in schools today, many of our children don't see male or African-American male role models at all. I mean, I can think about my academic career. I think that the first male teacher I had wasn't until I got into 9th grade. And so you think about what's happening in our school systems, we've got to attract and keep more male teachers in the school system, but we also need to create environments in which we provide wraparound services that bring mentoring opportunities to young children. As the executive director for Jumpstart for Young Children, we partner college students here in the city with 3- and 4-year-olds so they have adult role models and mentors to help them begin to see what life can be like under other circumstances. So we've got to do more to bring those resources to our children.
Mr. Orange?
I believe the question is what can we do more to create family unity? And, unlike you, Bruce, I was one of those ones that grew up without a father. And so, in my family, I've been married for nearly 30 years and I have 3 children. We embrace other children that are in our community. I know some of my neighbors were upset because I put a basketball court in my backyard, but all the neighborhood kids would come over and play every day. And then my wife's been in the school system for 30 years as well. A highly effective teacher. She's in the special education arena. So we've just embraced others and making sure that we're available through our children, through what we do in church, and just showing other kids that, hey, you can make it in life. I made it in life and I did not have a father. So a lot of times, a lot of us have to look at our situation and still say we can do better. We can move forward and just embrace people in the community and let them know it can be done.
Thank you.
Dr. Anderson on this. Okay, so we just had a point of it from the audience. Please, candidates, stand so that the people in the back of the room can see you. Thank you, sir. Go ahead. Dr.
Thank you very much. I am standing up. Well, the scripture would tell us in the book of Proverbs that we ought to train up a child in the way that they should go. And when they're old, they will not depart from us. I think because children are making babies, we need some parental classes so that our young people can understand what parenting is all about. I too was very blessed to come from a 2-family home. But what my parents taught us was faith, ethics, and morals. As my parents did us, they did not send us to church, they took us to church. I did the same thing with my child. I do the same thing with other people's children. I think that if we just are examples ourselves for our young children and for our families, this will make our world a better place, make it more morally effective, make it more ethically effective, and then, they watch everything that we do. So we need to be careful how we live.
Mr. Shapiro.
Thank you. And I think the question is a wonderful question, and it speaks to what are our values as a community. What we're really talking about is how do we support families, how do we support parents to help children. Now, parents come in all shapes and sizes. So there are parents in this room who are single parents. There are children here who have 2 mommies as parents, who have 2 daddies as parents, who have a single parent, who are being raised by grandparents. All of these are families, and what we need to do is to make sure that our policies support the parents to be the best parents they can be for the children. That is the values that we have to show as a city and as a society.
Okay, we will now have our next question from Debbie Simmons. Debbie Simmons.
Good morning. Oh, stand up. I want to start with a question that came to mind when Mr. Shapiro spoke, because this goes directly to Ward 7, even though it's an at-large citywide race. And the question is this. You said it's important to grow neighborhoods out of poverty, and there are
neighborhoods in Ward 7, as there are in elsewhere in the city, that are more economically depressed than others. So if you could answer this question, and then perhaps we could proceed down to Sekou. Which neighborhoods have you been campaigning in Ward 7? And what have they said to you?
I know that's right.
First of all, I'm new to you. I'm new to many of you. And you are new to me in many ways. That is clear, right? You know a bit about my story if you've been following it a bit, which is that I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I've lived here half my life, and I was in Prince George's County for a good number of years, and I served on the Prince George's County Council, and I served as council chair for 2 years. That is a big part of the experience that I bring to bear as an effective ethical leader. So there's lots that I don't know. So the answer to the question is, I'm here, and I'm here to learn as much as I am to talk about my experience. I can tell you what I have done to revitalize neighborhoods, and specifically work in Prince George's County, and hopefully we'll get to questions about that down the road, because I have an excellent track record at neighborhood revitalization, at turning around communities that are really, really struggling, and doing so in a way that helps uplift the folks who live in that neighborhood.